Hey guys, Hi Blood here. I hope everyone's doing well. Just wanted to make a quick video about Season 10 and the two variations for the Lightning Wizard build. At least in my opinion, I think there are two that will stand out amongst other possible variations, especially when the patch itself is out on March 31st. We'll know exactly what the different aspect of the build can be. Because as it stands right now, anything is possible. Blizzard can opt to change stuff on last second prior to releasing it on Friday the 31st. So having said that, let's start with the first build. The first build is what is known as the speed build because we want to optimize attack speed. Feel free to pause the video to look at the details. However, the set items remain the same. We want 3-piece Viras and 5-piece Taurashas. Now, of course, the two sets have their 4-piece for Viras and 6-piece Taurasha abilities unlocked with the Ring of Royal Grandeur. There are also 5 slots that must be of one set type rather than the other because of either stats that the other set doesn't have or the other set just doesn't have that piece, and that's highlighted at the top right, so be mindful of that when you are collecting the pieces. So this build uses the Zodiac Ring, so we have some cooldown potential coming from there. Now cooldown is still important to reduce the downtime out of Archon mode. However, what we want is attack speed, which is why if you notice the bracers are Lacunis. Essentially what we want to do here, guys, is we want to give the Hydras as much attack speed as we possibly can in that 15 seconds they're out. That's right, Hydras. In Season 10, Lightning Hydras can trigger paralysis and thus cause the Manold Heal's massive damage output. So what we want to do is we want to capitalize on that. Therefore, we're using the Serpent Sparker as our primary weapon, and again the Starfire is going into the queue. The Serpent Sparker gives us one additional Hydro out, which increases our chances of getting that massive damage out of the Manold Heal. And in terms of gems, you want to be using the Zea's Stone of Vengeance, Bane of the Trapped, and Gogok of Swiftness, because obviously the Gogok of Swiftness gives us more attack speed. Everything else pretty much remains the same as Season 9. Don't forget to put a diamond in your helmet for additional cooldown and topaz in your chest and pants. Now in terms of the skills, we are keeping the passives the same. All we want to change are we're no longer using the tornadoes. Instead we're using the lightning hydras and the ray of frost for that cold damage, the 60% reduced movement speed, and the damage it causes over time is nice. As I mentioned before, there are some variations to this build, but according to what I've seen and what I've found in my research, this might be one of the best ones. There are also some variations that use the slow time bubble with the attack speed increase, and I think that's more so for a group play rather than a solo play. And in terms of other skills, the black hole in this case is just for crowd control. You can experiment for yourselves, but whenever you're changing the skills, just make sure you're getting one of every element type so that your Tal Russia bonus kicks in and it's to the max that it possibly can be. I've created a link for the build on the Diablo fans website. It's not a build I've come up with, however, it's one that I've seen on Diablo fans in different variations as well. So I'll link that in the description below. Feel free to check it out to see what the exact stats are that you would want on each piece. Okay, now let's move on to the next variation of this build. So this build is known as the push build, and this is something you're gonna use when you're trying to push into the higher grader rifts, and I'm talking probably 95 and up. One thing to keep in mind for this build is that you will need perfect cooldown reduction on pretty much every piece, and that has to amount to 62.6% total. Otherwise, you're gonna struggle with this. In my opinion, it's better to start off with the speed build, and because we're gonna have the armory next season, you can just collect pieces for this build type, I should say. And once you have all the gear pieces and the perfect cooldown reduction on each piece, then you can set yourself up so that when you get to the point where you want to do those higher grader rifts, you will have the ability to. And that's probably one of the best parts about Season 10 is that you can have multiple variations to a build, and you're not going to have to struggle with switching over every piece on your guy in order to use that particular build. which really is a blessing, and it's about time they incorporated that into the game. Okay, let's talk about the pieces on this one. The set pieces still remain the same for Vera's and Tal Russia's. The only difference with this build is that now we're using the conventional elements ring, and also our bracers are changing. You can either use the ancient Parthen defenders, or you can use Ashnagar's blood bracers, or I mean, even if you have Lakunis from the other build, you can use that on here as well because it'll give you that attack speed. Obviously, the convention of elements is for that elemental circulation of damage that it goes through. That's a huge boost. So we're taking most of the damage through that circulation. In terms of the skills, we're because we're using this build as a push build. Teleport is something that we have to incorporate in order to give us that survivability. And of course, again, we want the 4 different elemental attack types in order to get the max out of the set for the Tal Russia. In terms of gems, Vengeance, Stricken, and again, go look for the speed, and the cube items remain the same. Now, a similar build to this one, minus the Hydras, is actually being used right now on the American servers for the top leaderboard players. And I think the top one I saw was Greater Rift 111, if I'm not mistaken. Essentially, it's the same type of setup. The only difference is instead of the Hydras, because they don't trigger paralysis, they're opting out to use the black hole. So in Season 10, we can use the Hydras, which will increase our chances of triggering paralysis. So in the meanwhile, it just goes to show that this is that push build that we're looking for, mainly because of the conventional elements. We get that bonus damage for the different elemental types. But as I mentioned, it's very heavy on cooldown. You need that 62.6% in order for this build to work. Essentially, you need perfect cooldown on every piece. However, if you don't get that, you can roll cooldown on your amulet to offset that, so you get to that 62.6 threshold. But don't focus on this particular build early on. Go after the speed build and try to find the pieces throughout your runs for this one and put it in your armory. And when you got the set going, by that time, I think it will take you some time to find the perfect pieces for this, and you'll be ready for those 90s and up. Don't forget, we're also gonna have the new ancient pieces, so that's gonna be interesting to see how that'll play in these builds. I mean, primal ancients are gonna roll perfect. Not to say, for every piece that drops that's a primal ancient, you're good to go. You don't need to look for it again. No, you still need to get the exact stats you need for that piece. So that being said, I do also want to talk about Whimsydale. Now they have boosted, apparently they've boosted some of the drops in that area in the PTR. I don't know if it'll carry over to the season launch, but apparently clouds are dropping Imperials, the pyramid or the pinatas are dropping Forgotten Souls, the mushrooms are dropping Death Spreads, and the presents are dropping up to 4 legendaries. So it's great at the beginning if you find a rainbow gob, because that'll give you the chance to explore the area and hopefully get a couple of ancient items easily in that one area, and maybe you'll even get lucky with a primal ancient. So if you do get it, give a shout out to anyone who's online in your clan to see if they're willing to join you. I'm sure they'll appreciate it, and hopefully you'll find something that you're looking for in that area. As I mentioned before in my old videos, make sure you find a clan if you're not already in one that's into season play, because that'll help you earlier on to get to 70, start grinding for gear and getting those Paragon points up. Hopefully you guys found this video to be helpful. If you did, leave me a like. Any comments, advice you guys have, you already know, leave it in the comment section below. And if you have any information to share about the next season, by all means, leave it in the comment section below for everyone else to see. And once the season launches, I'll go into further details in a video on the 2 builds. Thank you all for watching. Peace out.